All right. Hello and welcome to the parsha class. Parsha Ki Teitzei 5782. Today's parsha is not sponsored, but we'd still like to learn nevertheless. And I am glad that you're joining us for the learning of the Holy Torah together. We are in Parsha Ki Teitzei, as I said. Quick summary of the parsha. There are a number of mitzvot, and they're all geared towards the Jewish people who are about to enter Eretz Yisrael. Certain mitzvot are repeated for emphasis, or a few, I wouldn't call them changes, but certainly different emphases on what we're going to need to know for entering the land, and certain mitzvot that we really didn't hear about before that are going to be emphasized here as well for the same reason. We're about to go into the land. We're about to inherit things, so the firstborn's double portion, which is an inheritance issue, is where it starts. Obviously, we're talking about the behavior of children and favoritism and things like that, which can lead to the ben Sorah Mora, who's a rebellious child, and that's mentioned in this week's parsha, and not just mentioned, detailed. There's a mitzvah of burial, of tzitzit, of the issue of shatnas is repeated. Obviously, the prohibition against kidnapping, the reminder to remember what happened to Miriam. She spoke lashon hara about Moshe, and she was punished, despite the fact that it was perhaps l'toelet. It was for a good reason, and nevertheless she was punished. And she's such a holy person. Nobody is immune from the effects of negative behavior. And last but not least, the parsha ends with the parsha of Amalek, which we read right before Purim, and I think we discussed that in the class last year in some detail. So let's get right into, speaking of talking about things in great detail, let's get right into a deep dive into the parsha. Let's look at the actual sources, the original sources by the original artists, and here we go. No. Just a moment. We're going to fix this. I promise. I shouldn't promise. Here we go. Easy enough. All right, Baruch Hashem. Sharing the source sheet. YISD 0506 of 5782. That's the sixth parsha in the fifth book of the Torah. That's why 0506. And that's the year, and that's the amazing shul and community that we're a part of. All right. So, Baruch Hashem, chapter 21, verse 11. Chapter 21, verse 11 gives us a quick peek into a very, very unusual mitzvah. Unusual in so many ways. It so much seems to go against everything else that the Torah has ever taught. So it needs clarification. So we're going to look at the opinion tonight of the Or HaChaim HaKadosh of Chaim of Morocco, and the commentary he says about why this is an okay thing to do. It doesn't seem okay, but Rav Chaim Ibn Attar will tell us otherwise. Varita, there's a soldier. He's fighting in the war. And remember, we had some detail in last week's parsha that the Jewish soldier wasn't just a regular Joe Schmo off the street, just anybody. It was a holy person, a tzaddik, somebody who was very conscious of the fact of godliness, and the whole world around this person is of a positive nature, and he's out there and he's fighting a war. Why is he fighting a war? Because maybe we're being attacked and we need to defend ourselves. Maybe for whatever reason, another evil nation needs to be wiped out. I don't know what the exact cause of this particular war is, but either way, while he's fighting, he sees in the battlefield amongst the other captives who've been taken during battle, he sees an Eshet Yifat Toar. He sees a woman of beautiful appearance. And if this soldier wants her, and desires her, he can't just have her just right there in the field. He can't just take her and rape her. He's not allowed. That's not how we behave. Rather, what is he supposed to do? He can take her to his house to be a wife. And then, of course, the Torah details, and the oral law gives more detail of what exactly he has to do. She has to grow out her hair. She has to grow out her nails. She has to basically mourn the destruction of her homeland and her parents for a month. And if he still wants her in that condition, unbeautified and still, and he still desires her, we've basically given him the opportunity to not be just pulled by his own physical desires. That's not the only thing that should motivate him. So hopefully he's now motivated, if he's going to be with her, he's motivated by hopefully a higher purpose. And so we're giving him that option, that opportunity. That this is the, like I said, very, very rare mitzvah, which is why it's just so unusual that we're giving so many options, so many chances for people to seemingly sin. So this needs to be explained. Why is this allowed? This seems so wrong on so many levels. It seems like disrespectful. Aside from the whole disrespect of women issue, which is definitely there, it seems like we're allowing somebody to do the wrong thing. He has a desire for her, so too bad. He has a desire for her. Let him get over it. We have a desire for lots of bad things in our lives. Doesn't mean we can, fulfill those desires under different circumstances. You want a cheeseburger? All right, we'll let you have a cheeseburger, but you have to buy it, and you have to roll it around in the dirt, and then an hour later, when it's not cold, when it's not fresh anymore, and then you can eat it. We don't have a law like that. There's no other thing that you can think of where you have a mitzvah. Let's call it what it is. It's a mitzvah to do this. To go through this procedure if he wants to. So we don't have any other mitzvah like that in the entire scope of the 613 mitzvot. This is a very, very unique mitzvah. Why is it that this is allowed? And so to begin to answer the question, we have to understand why. We have to get some basics here. So we're going to look at. This is a very, very long piece, as often happens, and we're going to start towards the top, and we'll skip around a little bit, but that's okay. So to begin to understand this, we need to know some secrets, some Kabbalistic secrets. It says, again, this is the Or HaChaim. He says, Achein yisod hadavar v'sodohu al pi divreihem zal she'amru. So the real yisod, the real secret, the real foundation of this idea is based on something that the rabbis say elsewhere. And this is in Shar HaPsukim. It says there, Shebechet Adam Harishon nishbu kama neshamot yikarot biyad sitra achra. Because of the sin of the first man, because of Adam's sin of eating the forbidden fruit, for whatever reason, Hashem decided that many souls were going to be allowed to be in the hands of the Sitra Achra. Now, what's Sitra Achra? That's an Aramaic term which literally translates as the dark side. So to avoid or the other side, the other guy. In other words, the bad guys. In other words, the not tzaddikim, the not Jews, the not righteous. There's some sort of source, there's some sort of power that is evil in the world, and for one reason or another, because of the sin of Adam, some of his descendants, some of those otherwise pure souls, were sent to the Sitra Achra. Okay, that was the effect of that sin. Again, this is a Kabbalistic idea. If you want more details about that, we'll have to deal with that maybe another time, maybe after the class if you have questions. So V'heim nishamot hagerim. So he says that those souls, those are the souls of the converts, those holy, holy people who become Jewish. Their souls were the ones that are pure, but we're somehow in the hands of the impurity, right? In the hands of the evil other side, right? V'tzeilmad, he goes on to say, Kama v'kama gdolei olam bayim meha umot. We know how many great people have come from these other nations. He quotes, we've got Ruth Hamoviyah Tochiach, we've got Ruth herself, obviously is a proof to this. Kama Gedolei Olam, Shemaiah V'Avtalion, Unklus, Hager, all of these three great rabbis of the Talmud, they're all Gerim, they're all converts. Okay, Eila Rabot, many people like that. In other words, there is such a thing as somebody who was raised from not Jewish sources, taught not Jewish ideas, taught wrong ideas at times, obviously, and sometimes they come back. Okay, that's going to be. We need to understand that to understand why this Eshet Yifat Torah is allowed. Again, this female captive is allowed in the battlefield. Od agale lecha sod echad. I also want to tell you another secret. Timsa neshama tahora dvuka b'neshama tmeya. There are times you'll find that a pure soul, in other words, this pure soul that's on the Sitra Achra side, that was somehow taken by the evil side, right, is sometimes attached to an impure soul. In other words, let's say a pure, woman, right, who happens to be not Jewish, who's being raised not Jewish, without Jewish ideas, is married to an evil non-Jewish man. Let's say, an example, right? Can that happen? Yes. Does it always happen? No. Anyway, ve'ein koach b'tahora lahatot hatmeya lehetiv. That pure soul doesn't have the power to influence that impure soul. Sometimes they don't get along or whatever. Doesn't matter what the reason is. Sometimes there isn't the ability. V'hu munachat sham ad et deror. And then it becomes time. Sometimes that pure soul needs to be freed. V'tzeilmad kiyotze b'zeh minishmat Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion. So we can actually learn this from the story of the soul of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, right? It's a rabbi from the Talmud. Shahaita devuka b'Shchem ben Chamor. They say that he was actually attached because he was the descendant of Shechem, the son of Chamor, evil man in the Torah, who, of course, was the person behind the rape of Yaakov's daughter Devorah. Karamuz tevat rachvat yadayim. So kamur b'divrei hamukubalim. So the mukubalim they point out that there's an acrostic of rachvat is Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, and that phrase is found in Bereshit in discussion about Shechem. So in other words, there's a hint in the Torah regarding Shechem that he's going to be the ancestor of Chanina ben Tradion, according to the Kabbalists. Again, in Shar HaPsukim. Umatzinu shahanefesh halezu lo asatam pa'al tov b'Shechem. You know that this positive soul of Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion didn't affect anything positive in Shechem himself. Shechem didn't convert. Shechem eventually died for his sins. He stayed a wicked person. V'yatzta kishedavak b'dina. Instead, it left from the Sitra Achra by becoming attached to Dina. Did I say Devorah? Dina, Yaakov's daughter. Matzab anefesh mina v'nidbeka bo, who right. So what happened was that the soul that was in Shechem found something positive to attach to, which was Dina. And this, and so what he wants you to know, he wants you to remember this principle in understanding this Eshet Yifator, that there's this idea that a soul that is in the Sitra Achra needs to somehow be freed into the positive side. However, he says there's also the opposite case. Nefesh Kedusha ben haklipa. There could also be a holy soul that's trapped inside a shell, inside a klipa, which is a Kabbalistic term. Shebemakom shchunata tatelev hashochenet betocho lehetiv, and it begins to influence the heart of the person that's inside of, and then that person can himself become or herself become good. So these souls are then they leave off the bad stuff, or they sweeten it, right? They make it better. And these are the Gentiles who convert to Judaism by themselves. Karuta Movia, like Ruth, Ukinama, and like Nama, which was one of the wives of Shlomo HaMelech, Ukamo Harinu, Be'enei Gerim She'atzmam Bayim V'it Gairim, as we see with our own eyes, already in the time of the Orach Chaim, we see with our own eyes that there's non-Jews who on their own, somehow, some mishugas gets in their head and they want to become Jewish. That's their soul talking to them and telling them, I need to break out of this shell. I need to be free. And one last piece for introduction. Hine, he says one more thing. Hine kvar katafti kama pamim. I already wrote many times. He wrote this in Vayikra 18:4, other places. Ki me'atzmanu saud ma'aseh hamitzvah. Through the act of a mitzvah, something can happen. Yitlavesh ha'adam or hashchina. V'garish mimenu chelek hara. When you do a mitzvah, any mitzvah at all, something very powerful can happen. The light of the Shechina, the ore of the Shechina, the light of the Shechina covers a person. It covers the person. And pushes away in that way, pushes away any evil that's already possibly in that person. Komru, shomer mitzvah lo yida dvar ra. Says in Kohelet, something we're going to be reading, God willing, soon in about a month on Sukkot. Somebody who keeps a mitzvah doesn't know evil, right? Shomer mitzvah lo yada davar ra. Somebody who keeps a mitzvah doesn't know evil. Bifrat shluchei mitzvah, and this is specifically perhaps about somebody who's sent to do a mitzvah. He talks about the Inshlachaka, etc., etc. The point is, Kamo Kain ha'osek be'avera mitlabeshet bo ruach hatuma ve'etet darko. So somebody who does the opposite of a mitzvah, a sin, they're going to be enveloped by the opposite, by this feeling of tuma, this trapped feeling. They're going to feel incomplete and unholy. That's the idea. Now, based on all of those three things, again, the idea that there's gerim in the world, the idea that there is that people who can be a holy soul that's trapped in the clutches of the Sitra Achra, of the other side. Based on all of those Kabbalistic concepts, now let's get back to asking the question that we're asking, which is, why is a non-Jewish captive allowed to be taken by a Jewish soldier? And I think already, if you think about it, I think if you're here and your mind is in it, I think you can already basically guess what he's about to say. But let's see it in his own beautiful words. After Hashem has revealed all of this to us, Now we know all this. Ya'iru mi amre el elyon kashemes v'taharaim k'mitzvah zu. The statement of Hashem, the Most High, in this mitzvah is illuminated, is as clear to us like the sun of noon. It's that clear. V'hi, and what's the point? What is this lesson? L'fi shehikdim ki teitzei lemilchama. As we said, as we say many times before, where this parsha is about going to war. We're not just talking about going to war with enemies. It's about the soul going out to do a mitzvah. We're battling Hashem's enemies. Amar od ki ba b'shivya. So when we're talking about a shivya, a captive, what are we talking about? Perush b'shad shivya u'kamoshikain dikdek Rambam perak chet Hilchot Malachim. It's like what the Rambam said in Hilchot Malachim. Ki be'ota sha odenu osek b'mitzvah. At that moment, the halach of Yifat Torah is because at that time the soldier is still engaged in the mitzvah, still doing the mitzvah of fighting Hashem's enemies. So let's talk about this Yifat Torah for a moment. If he sees this woman of a beautiful appearance, he's allowed to take her. What is Perush? Perush Eshet. What does it mean that we're calling her an Eshet, which is usually woman? Perush Eshet Samuch. It's connected to another word. Rabbeinu Zal Amru Eshet Ish. In the Kedushin, the Gemara Kedushin, when it talks about a Yifat Torah or an Eshet, and when it says Eshet, it doesn't mean wife, it doesn't mean woman. That's an Isha. Eshet, with a tough at the end, means it's the woman of, the woman who is part of, a woman who is part of something else or someone else. In other words, it's a wife. It's a wife who is a part of a equal part, but still a part of her husband. They belong together. That said, Elabala Ayir Shem Tzaut Haito Osek b'mitzvah Hayoto Asuk b'mitzvah. Rather, what the verse is trying to convey is that the soldier is engaged in the mitzvah. Yigala Hashem et einav lahakir b'goya sheyesh ba yifator. Hashem, remember, he's involved in the mitzvah. Hashem is raising his eyes to look at this woman and realize that she can be an Eshet because she's a Yifat Toar. He's busy with the mitzvah. He's fighting a war. He's not looking at the cheerleaders. He's playing the football game. How did he get distracted? Hashem got this tzaddik distracted. Hashem had this all planned out so that he would marry this woman and then thereby do what we've been saying all along, and that is find a way to get that soul attached to something holy. And he goes on from there, and he says quite a bit more, and he's got some proofs, and he's got some more Kabbalah. I urge you, if you have the time, to go back to the source that I sent you in the email and look it over in more detail. We're just barely scratching the surface, and like I said, I think it's from Sefaria, so we have it in Hebrew, and I believe we have the whole text in English as well. I did not look over the English. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's probably pretty good. Sefaria is pretty good about these things. Wow, it is longer than even I suspected. Either way, that's the idea. The idea, again, is she has a soul that's trapped in her. He's a tzaddik doing battle, and his eyes were distracted onto her for a reason. Hashem wanted that to happen. Hashem wanted him to see her and realize that she is everything we see, everything that this is, I mean, very fundamental to Jewish philosophy. Everything we see and everything that happens to us is for a reason. We don't always know the reason. We might not like the reason in the end, but everything always, Gam Zula Tova, everything always leads to good somehow. Somehow. Question?
Rabbi?
Yes.
Rabbi?
Yes. I'm here.
Good evening, Ariela.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I just missed the last couple of sentences.
Okay.
I got caught out, but
No
if
problem.
I understand correctly, so soldiers go to war, and if they meet a woman, those women that they chashkim bahem, which they desire, it meant to be because those souls are trapped inside, and the Jewish soldier is going actually to free them.
If that happens, yes. In other words, if that soldier who's so busy in battle is distracted by this one woman, obviously it was meant for a reason. And yes, that's the only reason why he would be allowed to do such a thing, is to free that soul.
But then at the same time, they will take them home. They will degrade them from their beauty, physical beauty, which was God's creation.
Yes.
Needless to say that they are goy, but it's still God's creation.
Of course.
So it's like I pick up a flower that I desire, a rose, and I'll take the head of the rose off because I want to save the. I'm destructing something that it's God's creation.
Okay.
And then I keep it for 30 days. And then if I don't want to, I'll let that soul free. So how did I free it?
Very, very good question. Okay, so to answer again, the Or HaChaim has more on this, and he actually answers your question in greater detail than I could. But there's one problem with your metaphor, one major problem. The flower metaphor, as nice as it is, the problem is when you take off its head, you're killing it. The woman, when you're causing her not to wear, when you're not letting her put on makeup, when you're making her grow out her hair, when you're making her grow out her nails, you're actually making her more natural, right? You're just not letting her beautify herself. Because the point is, we don't only want to marry a woman for her beauty. We want to make sure that there's a holy soul inside. And so basically to make sure that that's what's happening here, that we're not killing her beauty forever, right? We're these 30 days. And if he sees that her soul is actually as beautiful as has been reflected in her physical beauty, is kind of what the Or HaChaim will say.
Yeah.
Then indeed he should marry her.
But then he's got an option not to. I mean, it says specifically and it says lo chashak ba. It's still using the same word, even when he takes that beauty that was originally chashak ba, desired her. Still, in the end, he can let her go if lo chashak ba. So
exactly right.
But the same word, it's the same desire. Is the desire for the holy neshama, or is the desire for the beauty?
No, it should be for the holy neshama, not for the beauty. So if he doesn't desire her, that means he realized after 30 days that she doesn't have that beautiful neshama. That's exactly what I'm saying. You're right.
Then why taking all the creation that God created for her? When you say natural, hair grows natural. If you don't cut it, it just grows. Nails grows natural. If you don't cut it, then it grows. Then why is it upon himself to actually do different, which was originally the desire, the original desire? I actually, it's hard for me to understand that.
I didn't catch. I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Why would you supposedly he desired her? Because if he desired her because she was beautiful inside, then why does he have to take the physical aspect of her beauty? If he desired her for her beauty, then the test, supposedly he has to take the physical beauty of her to find out if the inner beauty is there.
Yes.
But he desired her for her external beauty, or for
correct. Obviously, for, again. So the way the Or HaChaim said it is, and I this is the metaphor I used in just a few moments ago. Again, a football player isn't supposed to be looking at the cheerleaders while he's playing, right? He's supposed
Right.
to focus on the game. So all the more so, a soldier in the midst of battle is not thinking about, look at those beautiful hills and trees
Right.
and flowers. Oh, the ladies are pretty. Oh, there's bakery goods in the window. That's not what they're thinking about. If they are, that would be very dangerous and bad for them. So that's not how soldiers usually think in battle.
Right.
If the Or HaChaim says, if this particular tzaddik who's in battle, if Hashem directs his eyes up to the place where he sees this beautiful woman and he finds her beautiful, obviously physically, he doesn't know her. He hasn't had a chance to have a conversation and see what a great personality she has, right? This is all physical. So to avoid him marrying her just for physical things, the Torah has a list of things that he should do in order to make sure that it's not just for physical reasons.
I get it, but then
Okay.
you explained that he's supposed to free a good neshama inside. I don't know how to pronounce that Aramaic word that you said. Among the evil. So
Sitra Achra, yeah.
Sitra Acha. So
Yeah.
he's supposed him. So if it is for a reason, then he's supposed to release that neshama, but then he has a choice if he doesn't want to. So is it tzaddik to start with to actually see that neshama, and the surety is that he's going to release that
Right.
soul?
So
But
when he doesn't want to, what that means is he realizes that there isn't that pure neshama in this body.
then where is the reason that God created that incident to happen? Well, which one is it?
That depends on each individual case. I don't know why that, I don't know why that incident would happen for this to happen and not work out. But in general, if that happens, again, it's not going to happen. God willing, we'll never have to deal with this kind of situation. But the point is, when we have situations where our eyes are distracted into a certain direction for against our control, we should think about why. We should try to ponder that a little bit. Why is it that I'm looking over there? Why did I notice that car accident? Why did I see what I saw? All of that. We're supposed to learn lessons from this. We learned that, by the way. We've talked about this in previous classes with regard to the sota and the nazir, right? Somebody who sees the sota in her disgrace, the Talmud tells us, should become a nazir. So again, the person's supposed to learn a lesson. Like there's obviously a reason why I'm witnessing this. Anyway,
So
that's the idea.
okay, I get it. I'm just seeing the soldier that goes to war and see the woman, the beautiful woman. To me, it's more the thing that you have to learn from it. And again, that's my perception. It's a war that the soldier has within himself. It's not a war that he's actually fighting. It's more the war that he's got within himself when he's distracted by beauty. And like you said, you have to soul search within yourself why it's happening to you. And it gives you the metaphor of you are at war, and think of not the beauty, think of the inner soul rather than the outer soul.
Beautiful. That's another lesson. I'm not going to take that away from you. That is definitely a beautiful lesson, and I'm sure there's other commentaries who write that. That's not what the Or HaChaim writes, but it is definitely a beautiful point also. All right, we're going to go on if that's okay, right? Chapter 21, verse 15. We get into the issue of what's it called? Inheritance. So if somebody has, remember this is the Torah was written at a time when it was even probably more common, but definitely allowed for men to have more than one wife. And the halacha is that if a person has children and the first child is a firstborn son, then that child is supposed to get what's called a double portion. So depending on how many other people the person has, how many other sons, daughters, whatever else are born to the person, so that the firstborn son the first child born to this man is supposed to get a double portion. That's pretty standard, understandable halacha. What that means, practically speaking, just to do the math for you, is if he has, for instance, 3 sons, it's just right, 3 sons, right, and his firstborn son is going to get the double portion. What that means is you have to divide the portion into 4 parts, and the firstborn son is going to get 2 of those 4 parts. That's the double, right? 2 out of 4 is half, right? And the other sons are going to get 1/4. So, right? So that's the 2/4 versus 1/4. That's how the double portion works. Okay, so far so good. That's basically how it starts off. Now the Torah then says, well, what if, dun 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 dun, what if he has 2 wives? He have multiple wives. He has 2 wives, both are pregnant, right? One gives birth to a firstborn, and one gives birth to the obviously secondborn, right? And for whatever reason, the one who gave the second birth to the secondborn, he likes that wife more, right? He does. I don't know why. He does. He likes her more. Maybe she's nicer. Maybe whatever. Maybe she's prettier. Maybe who knows, right? Whatever his excuse. Maybe he likes. Maybe she's more independent and stronger, and he likes that in his wives. I don't know, right? Whatever it is, he likes her more, and he wants to give this double portion to this second child. Now, the second child is not the firstborn. So that's a problem. And the Torah is basically saying you're not allowed to choose who you give the firstborn rights to. You are, by the way, I'm not going to get into the halachic details of it now, but in terms of inheritance, there is a halacha that a person should have a living will, where in their life, they're allowed to give gifts of certain things while they're still alive and not leave this up to destiny to decide who gets what, right? If you decide you want to give a gift to your youngest daughter for whatever reason, you want to give your youngest daughter a gift in your life, and it's, let's say, a half of the what would end up as being half of the inheritance. That's what she gets. She, regardless of these other laws of who gets firstborn and everything else, she gets whatever you wrote down in your will that she's going to get. It's that simple. But aside from all that, so in this particular case, as we said, Ki Leish Shtei Nashim, a particular man has 2 wives. Ha'achat ahuva, one is loved. Sorry. Ha'achat ahuva, one is loved. V'ha'achat snua, and one of them is hated. Okay. Why is he married to a hated wife? Don't know. We'll get to that. V'yaldu lo banim, and they both gave birth to sons. Ha'uva v'hasnua, the loved one and the hated one. V'yah ben ha'bechor l'sniya, and this bechor, this firstborn, as the case I just gave you, was born to the quote unquote hated wife. Now, what we're going to look at right now is the Talmud. Okay? And the Talmud has a completely different understanding of what we just read. Because what's probably going on in your head, and I even encouraged it with some of the questioning that I did while we were reading the verse, is why is she loved? Why is she hated? What's going on? So the Talmud has an answer to this. You ready for this? It says in the pasuk, Ki Teitzei Class, Shtei Nashim ha'achat ha'ahuva v'ha'achat snua, one is loved, one is hated. So the Talmud is already asking, completely surprised, shocked. The Talmud is, how could you say this, Torah? How could you say that one is loved and one is hated by hamakom? Who's hamakom? Not the father, not the husband, by Hashem. How can you say that Hashem hates one of these women? Hashem doesn't love any child of his, and we're all his children. The Talmud is baffled. How could she be loved? How could she be hated? How could Hashem love her or hate her? Now, why did you think that it was the man who loved her or hated her? Again, Ki Teitzei Class, a man has Shtei Nashim, 2 wives. Ha'achat ahuva. One is loved. Doesn't say he loves her. V'ha'achat snua, and one is hated. Doesn't say he hates her. It says one is loved, one is hated. By whom? The Talmud assumes it must be by Hashem, but that can't be. Hashem can't hate his own children. Even a murderer, we had in last week's parsha, in this week's parsha, even a murderer, somebody who cursed out Hashem, has to be hanged and killed. But the body needs to be buried. The body needs to be buried before nighttime because we have to give him respect. Respect? A murderer? Respect who? Respect whom? Somebody who cursed Hashem? We have to respect him? Hashem wants us to respect somebody who cursed him? Yes. He loves all people. So it says in the Talmud, Ela, Ahuva, what does it mean that she's loved? Ahuva benisueha. Her marriage is loved. Her marriage is blessed. Her marriage has been sprinkled by the dust of Hashem's affection. Okay? Snua benisueha. Her marriage wasn't a good marriage. Her marriage should not have happened. That's what it means. Her marriage is hated. Amar Rahmana, what's the phrase that the whole verse starts with? Ki Teitzei. They belong to that man. Not belong, like ownership. They're married to him. The marriage is good. Sorry. Legally good. The marriage is binding. The marriage is effective, but the marriage is not loved. The marriage is not hated, depending on which one we're talking about. And that's why this husband, because it's not a good marriage for him, it's not a blessed marriage, that's why he's choosing to give his inheritance to the other wife. This inheritance that should go to the firstborn son who is in that hated marriage. He has no right to do that, says the Torah. Whether it's a loved marriage or a hated marriage, it's a marriage and it's binding. And so that binds him to all of the responsibilities of the marriage, including that the firstborn child, in this case, the firstborn child from this hated marriage, should still get the double portion of whatever it is that he's going to give away after 120 years and passes. That's the Talmud's understanding of this verse. And I'm just bringing this up, by the way. We don't usually this is not a Talmud class. I understand that. But I want to bring this up because there's so many little tiny hints and beautiful ideas in the Torah that you don't get in translation, and that you have to look, as the Talmud did, at the wording. Ahuva, loved? Who could she be loved by? Snua, hated? Who could she be hated by? Ki Teitzei, he has? Ki Teitzei Leish, he has them? What do you mean he has them? They're not chattel. They're not books. Can't have them. What does it mean? It means the marriage is real. And yet, it's not a necessarily positive marriage. And so it's a snua. The marriage is nisueha, right? So that's how the Talmud understands it. And again, it's insightful in a lot of ways, I'm sure. But I want one of the things I want you to go away with from this class, as I've often tried to hammer home this point, and that is that we have this idea in our minds that we know the Torah, we've read the book, we've read the Bible, we've read even the Chumash translated by a good legitimate publishing company. We've read it, so we know it. You don't know it. You don't know it unless you look into every single letter and every single word in a lot more detail than we sometimes have the power to do alone, which is why we need Baruch Hashem, and we have the Talmud to do that for us. We're going to now skip along to another parsha. Sorry, when I say parsha, I mean topic. And that is in Devarim 22, 1 through 4. 4 psukim we're going to read right now. We're going to need to read all of them because they tell a story. Not much of a story, honestly. It's a halachic story. It's more of like a case. Let's call it a legal case, right? United States v. Rosenberg, whatever. Okay, so here's the case. Ready for this? God forbid. We should know such thing. Lo tira et shor achicha oseo nidavim v'hialamta mehem hashev teshivem la'achicha. If you see your fellows, ox or sheep, right, and they are they've gotten lost, they're nidachim. You should go and return them to your brother. It's going to be important. Try to remember that. And if your brother's not close to you, he lives far away, 20-minute horse ride away. Otova hashivoto lo. That doesn't mean anything. It's still his. Even if he's not living next to you, that what you found that's his is still his. Distance didn't make him, alien to his belongings. Same thing. You thought maybe you might have thought that that's true for the ox. It's a sheep. It's kosher animal. Kosher animals I'm going to return to my brother. No. Same thing you should do with a donkey, obviously a not kosher animal. And the same thing you should do with his clothing. This is the law. This is the halacha of what's called hashavat aveda, returning a lost thing. Doesn't matter where they are. Doesn't matter exactly what it is. Doesn't mean you don't have to like the thing. He doesn't have to like the thing. If he lost it, you have a responsibility to return it to your brother. All of his belongings, asher toved mimenu, if it got lost from him and you found it, lo tuchal lahit alem. You are not allowed. You have no permission to just let it go. And not care. You have to care about your brother's belongings. And then the last verse, also obviously related to this, lo tireh et hachamor achicha. Don't see the enemy. The donkey of your brother, oshoro, or his ox, noflim baderech. They're fallen on the road. V'halamta mehem ekim takim imo. They've been basically crushed by the weight of whatever's on their backs. And if you need to, obviously they need to get unloaded. So you should unload the donkey and the ox together with your brother. And this is the basic principle of help a brother out, right? Yeah, you see somebody who's having trouble, whether it's with their animals or their belongings or anything else. We have a responsibility to look out for each other. Of course, very, very relevant halacha, if you think about it, for people who are about to go into their own land and become an independent country, which is about to happen to these people. So writes the Meshech Chochmah, something you might not have thought about. There's a verse, a similar verse. Remember, a lot of these verses in Devarim are repeats, more or less. So when we want to look at some of the differences, it says, "Lo tireh chamor achicha chulei." Don't see the donkey of your brother, etc., overloaded with stuff. Uba Mishpatim, it means in the parsha of Mishpatim, back in the middle of Shemot 20 to be exact. Very impressive that I remember. No, I don't think it might be 21. I don't know. It says Ktiv Oivecha. There it says not Achicha, your brother. There it says Oivecha, which means your enemy, the donkey of your enemy. What is going on here? So he says, Mishum de Arbe Psachim. There's a Gemara in Arbe Psachim, which we have quoted here, by the way. I think, or no, I forgot to quote it. I apologize. Amar mi shar lisnua hi ktiv lo tisna achicha bilvavecha. We have a concept. You're not allowed to hate your brother in your heart. Oh boy. So what's happening here? He's not allowed to hate him. So, he's an oivecha in Mishpatim. Umiki bara bo she'avar avera. Back then, he was over in avera. He was sinning because there's a sin of hating somebody else. You're not allowed to hate another Jew. And here he is hating somebody. And he doesn't want to help with the donkey, whether he helps or doesn't help with the donkey. Still, the guy is his oivecha. He's his enemy. That's not good. But Mishpatim was given, the parsha of Mishpatim was written down before the egel, before the golden calf. And at that point, the Jewish people, we were a goy kadosh. We were a holy people. As haya shar lisnua imra bo avera. And then the only people who were hated were somebody who were evil and did averot. That's the only people who were hated. Lokein acharei kol hamasot asher nichshkulu la'abavonot im yira adam bechavero chet. But if a person sees in his friend some sort of evil behavior, yipash pesh b'masav, yimatza kama miksholam umapakim. He should do whatever he can to help him correct his behavior. Zeh befrat zeh befrat zeh. Zeh befrat zeh, yeah. Each one in its own category. And therefore, it's not allowed to hate such a person. Except for so he's a surmira. He's trying to do evil. And tries to hurt a perfect tzaddik in his way, on the road. Aval kasha b'matzah kamoto al zeh b'amru re'iti b'al zeh v'hema mu'atim lachen k'tiv achicha. So, but here we're calling him an achicha, a brother, because at this point in the history of the Jewish people, we don't hate anybody. We shouldn't hate anybody. Over there in the Mishpatim, there was an oivecha. There were people who were going to sin. But here we're talking about a new level. This level of Jewish people who are about to enter Eretz Yisrael were on such a high, beautiful level that there were no such thing as a snua at that point. There's no such thing as an oivecha at that point. At that point, everybody was an achicha. Okay. We have time for this? Yeah, we're going to make time for this. Okay. Since we talked about hate and such in marriage, happens to be this parsha, jokes on me, this parsha deals with, that's right, divorce. This is the parsha of the Torah deals with divorce. There's all kinds of halachot of divorce, when to divorce, how to divorce, all of that's here. So amongst them is this somebody, and we're not going to have time to read all the verses here, but it says kikach ish isha alecha usneya. If somebody marries a woman, and then for some reason, and here you see, by the way, look at the wording here, usneya, and he hates her, which it didn't say in that other verse, which is why the Talmud was so adamant that we couldn't be talking about the husband hates them. Okay, here he hates her, all right? And he goes around and he says bad things about her. Right? He says she wasn't what she said she was. We're not going to get into all those details now. But the question here is this. The Malbim asks a question. And all these verses are available to you in the source sheet, if nowhere else. Vahasniya, and he hates her. He says, "Hello, Yitzur Mishisham La Alilo Dvarim Shalo Machmat Tzniya." Isn't it already clear? Isn't it obvious? He's saying bad things about her. He's spreading lies about her. He's libeling her in public. Isn't it obvious that he hates her? Wait, remember, there's no extra words in the Torah. Why does the Torah have to tell us that he hates her? That's pretty clear. So says the Malbim, and remember, he's writing about 150 years ago or so. Actually, he died about 150 years ago, so probably writing this before that. Rak shenishtana dato b'halil aleha kedei sheyikach achar acheret na o ashira mimena. You might have thought maybe he doesn't like her as much as somebody else. In other words, maybe he likes another woman. Maybe he found a more wealthy woman. She can sponsor him while he sits on the couch and eats bonbons, or he found a prettier woman. He can like show her off. She can be his what do they call it, trophy wife or whatever, right? So maybe that's why he did it. Maybe it's not because he hates her, right? Rakakatuv milamdenu she'avera gereret avera. The Torah is telling us that an avera leads to other averot. It's a principle in Pirkei Avot, that one sin leads to another. Sins have a way of snowballing. So he started with one sin, and it continued and got worse. And what was that sin? Sheyatze migarer haTorah v'musar katuv ad sheyirtza l'shafuch dama l'zeh yikadma al harov avera acheret kala shehi meviyed lidei Shindalid. What's that? Shindalid. I wish I had that translated. Either way, lidei. I'll try to look it up for later. Either way, what he's saying is this: that the Jewish husband here, who hates this wife and spreading a bad rumor about her, is obviously he might want to do it for other reasons, not because he hates her or for some other reason. But what's clear is an avera leads to an avera. This big sin that he's doing, that he's spreading lies about her, started with a much smaller sin. And what was that smaller sin? That he hated her. He's not allowed, asur, right? We said this before in another context from the Meshech Chachma, just before this, that from the Gemara in Pesachim, that it's asur to hate another person in your heart. He's not allowed to hate her. If he's going to hate her, that's already a sin. Next step is now he's going to do other averot. So, practically speaking, let's brass tacks here. Let's talk about this, right? Let's walk this through. There's a marriage.
We don't know why he hates her.
Right, we don't know. It's true.
Okay.
It's true. She might be mean. He might be mean. We don't know. But whatever it is, he's not allowed to hate her. What should he do instead? If he finds something, not nice about her, or he realizes that there's no chemistry, it's not working out, what should he do? He should get a divorce. He shouldn't get to the point where he hates her. If he's going to hate her, that's going to lead to other sins. And you're going to see those sins because he's going to then do other things, whether it's the sin of violence or the sin of Lashon Hara or whatever other sins that are possible. They all come from the first sin, which is he hated her. He didn't like her. He didn't treat her with the respect that he should have.
I have a question, Rabbi.
Yeah.
If we go back to the explanation of when a man sees a woman at war,
yeah,
and there is a reason, and if the explanation was that it's God's reason for him to see that, for him to chashak ba, let's go back now to the divorced couple, to the married couple, that he married her, and maybe he chashak ba to start with. And maybe there was a reason why God put them together. And maybe that man does not see the good in her.
Could be.
And because he doesn't see the good in her, there's a hatred that comes out, which is exactly the opposite. I mean, it's the fine line between good and evil. And when you said before, that bad deeds kind of snowball.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, too, good deeds can snowball as well.
Of course, yeah. That's actually the same Mishnah. Mitzvah gereret mitzvah, vera gereret avera. Yeah, okay.
Great.
Right.
So if the sight of the man would have gone into if he would pick something good out of that woman, if he would see it, then the hatred will not be as prominent as maybe if he'll only see one good thing, maybe it will take into another thing, another good and another good, rather than he focus on the bad, and the bad takes more of the bad and more of the bad, where it becomes the hatred.
Correct. I'm not disagreeing. Yeah.
Then, okay, so you said that the solution is get, but what I'm saying, what if he didn't see that he was put up with that woman to actually, for him to realize the goodness of her rather than the hate? What if, according to this is God's plan?
Oh, no. Yes. Everything is God's plan.
Yes.
And it was, and there must have been a reason for this marriage.
Right.
Right. I totally agree. But if he begins to feel that there's something evil about her, something wrong, he shouldn't wait to the point where he's going to hate her, is my point. That's all I'm saying.
I totally agree with you. But
right.
Go to the beginning. What was it to start with that he chashak ba, that he actually wanted her, he desired her to marry her? Must have been something good there.
Of course.
Right.
But he's for whatever reason, maybe it's a fault in him, maybe it's a fault in her. And I said all this. There's something wrong that he's not able to focus on that good anymore, or maybe that good changed, or whatever. I don't know. Obviously, there are different situations in every case. But whatever it is, he should not get to the point where he hates her, because that's going to cause him to do other sins.
Correct.
One of the sins is speaking badly about her, which is a huge sin.
Right.
Amongst other ways that he could disrespect her. He should not get to that point. That's what the Torah is saying. That's how the Malbim understands this verse.
But then at the same time too, if she's as evil of what she's doing, he's no better either of what he's doing.
I gave that option too, of course.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. I said it could be a fault in her, could be a fault in him, could be just bad chemistry. Not everybody's fit for each other.
Right.
Two perfectly good people are not made for each other. They might have been made for each other for a short time, and God might have orchestrated for them to be married for a short time and have a child or whatever. And maybe that child, who knows why that child has to experience divorce or whatever else. Maybe that's a growing experience for that child. There's so many maybes and so many variables that we're not considering. But yeah, all of that's possible, and all of that is part of Hashem's plan. Absolutely.
Is there a get in the Torah?
Yeah, this parsha talks about it. It talks about it doesn't call it a get. Get is a rabbinical Hebrew word, but it does say shtar kritut, I think it's called, a document of separation.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but yeah, that's in this parsha. If we would learn it, go a little further, we'd have seen that.
Okay.
But we'll take this up again, God willing, next year if we can. But we have to be done for tonight. If you have any further questions, I'm available for that. Unless you're asking on Facebook, then you're basically talking to a screen, because I'm saying goodbye to Facebook. Everybody should have a wonderful rest of your week. Shabbat shalom. Take care.
Thank you.